It's Tuesday, August 14th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we find out what all the buzz is about mosquitoes, check in with the Barnstable Police Department, and a construction update on Lombard Field. Let's start with some news you can use. The town of Barnstable, Old Barnstable Fairgrounds in Marston's Mills, received the distinction of Best in Golf, based largely on voting by the regional golfing public by the Northeast Golf Organization. It's the 6th year in a row the course has been recognized. Old Barnstable came in number 10 in the public course category. Congratulations to the entire staff for their hard work in achieving this prestigious ranking. A wet spring and a field of clay were several challenges the Department of Public Works has faced in the redesigned construction of the baseball field and Luke's Love Playground in West Barnstable. Town architect Mark Marinaccio explains the project and updates us on its timeline for completion. If you build it, he will come. Here with me today is town architect Mark Marinaccio. Lombard Field, 70% complete?
Yep, we're 70% complete.
So out here we've got a field, the sod is laid, we've got a sign, we've got a press box. Give us a little indication of where we are in the project.
Well, right now we have basically pulled up a lot of the West Barnstable clay material out of the field, put in some good material, we put in our drainage system, we have our irrigation system in, and we've laid the sod, so that is actually rooting right now. We're right now have a mason that's working on the entrance to Luke's Love. Looks like we'll be paving the sidewalks sometime this week, early next week, and we're waiting on some parts for the stormwater system here, and once those arrive, the contractor will be back on site probably within 2 weeks and finish up.
Moving along, it's been a long summer, obviously. You've had some rain, you've had a terrible spring, which I'm sure held things up. Give us an indication of what some of the challenges are at this field and getting this up to the world-class facility that it's going to be.
Yeah, well, one of the big challenges was relocating Luke's Love, because as you know, it's a memorial as well as a very popular playground. So there was some sensitivity in relocating that. Working with the contractors, with the soil materials here. We ended up starting in September, so by the time they were ready to pave, it was early spring when it was very wet here. So we really needed to wait for the site to dry out before we could really put the road base in and then move forward with the paving.
Right, and you mentioned Barnstable clay. Give me an indication of what it's like to work with a surface like that.
Well, I was here every spring when I would come out to the site. Luke's Love was here. I would see a mother and a couple mothers and their children stuck in the mud out here. That's how bad it was. It's when we put the foundation underneath the old Selectmen's building, the mud here was almost like a grease. That's how slippery it is and how bad it is. So we've mitigated that issue, and hopefully it'll be dry here and we'll have a very popular site.
Right, so there's a full drainage system in here now, so yes. Hopefully that's gonna, pull away all the water.
Yep.
Excellent. The clubhouse or the press box, there was one here. You have no idea how it got here.
No,
but the new one is really a state-of-the-art. It's going to be accessible for everyone.
Yep, yeah, the press box is uniquely designed where the first floor will be accessible from grade, as well as a accessible walkway around the far side of it to get down to the field. So the site will be completely accessible.
Right. So what's your feeling on this particular project? You happy it's coming to its end, or you're going to be sad to not come out to West Barnstable every day?
We're always happy when every project comes to an end,
right.
And we can hand it over to the public and they can start using it. I mean, the only real benefit we get out of the project is to see them done successfully.
Excellent. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Mark.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Chief Sonovan.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am well. It's a little foggy start, though.
Yes, it is, but I see the humidity has decided to stick around for a little bit.
I tell you, we all complain about the winter, but I complain about the humidity.
Well, we'll get the chance to do that soon enough.
Exactly. We had an incident on Keys Beach on Sunday evening.
Yes, we did. Apparently, and we got a call, maybe a little bit after 5 o'clock in the evening on Sunday. Report of a disturbance. We got down there and found out that a fairly large group had a party or something. We were gathering in the picnic area when it appears that a couple of them maybe had an argument or something that led to a fight. But by the time we got there, all the people involved in the fight had since disappeared, and the group was cooperative and we were able to get them out of the area. But then we got a call from the hospital that somebody was reporting down there with stab wounds. And right now we're investigating that, but it appears it could be related to the party. But we're just trying to get to the bottom of the matter at this point in time. As you know, sometimes people just really don't want to tell the police what happened when they were doing things they shouldn't be.
Right. Well, hopefully you'll get some answers, and folks will come forward.
Yep, and I think the big thing to take out of this is that it does not appear in any case that this was a random event. That was something where a couple of people knew each other and had a heated argument between themselves. It wasn't some random incident where anything like that.
Right. So we got the bad cop stuff out of the way. How about the good cop stuff?
Well, I don't see that the cops were bad in that story, but okay, if that's the way you want to refer to it. Grants.
Right.
Went before town council the other day, and we get there's a grant that comes out every year from the federal government called the Burn Grant. It's an amount of about $57,000. We get a portion of that money. It's about $26,000 or so that we can use to purchase equipment or to do different things like programs and whatnot. We're going to use it to buy a new fingerprint scanner that we need for records to do some license processing and stuff like that, and to get out there and do some additional foot and mountain bike patrols in the communities, in addition to our neighborhood watches. And like I said, that's a split grant between us, the Yarmouth Police Department, and the Falmouth Police Department, and it does come out yearly. And right now, actually, we're in the process of applying for the 2018 version of that grant. The other grant that we had gotten that needed town council approval was the traffic safety grant, which allows for the purchase of traffic equipment. And what we did was purchase some stuff for our reconstruction officers. Some of the equipment they had was a little dated, but in order to investigate some of these more serious accidents in the appropriate way and to get all the information that they need to get, they need to have the current tools. So we replaced some of the older equipment, and some of that is also going to be used for some specialty patrols like distracted driving, some drunk driving enforcement, and things like that.
So, a lot of folks seem to think that, the police department's only funded by their taxes, but you folks are actually grant writers as well.
Yeah, we do go out there as much as possible and write grants to get different things. And some of these grants, like I said, we were talking about the Burn Grant, that's a federal level grant. Right. And the other grant, the traffic grant, is a state grant. And then there's a variety of different grants you can apply for. It's a competitive process because a lot of different departments want to use as much grant money as possible to save the taxpayers some money or to defray costs that that they don't want to put onto the regular budget. Right. So like these enforcement patrols, like the state will have a lot of different grants for traffic safety enforcement, specifically like there's a pedestrian and safety grant where you go out and conduct patrols around crosswalks and talk about bicycle safety and things like that. We participate in, and we use a portion of that to help with the J1 visas and stuff like that. Go out and talk to the students who come from different countries and let them know about the bicycle safety and pedestrian safety laws in town, as well as enforcing pedestrian zones around crosswalks and things like that.
So does the department actually have a grant writer, or is it officers and folks like yourself that take time out of your day to do that?
We do not have a specific grant writer per se. We do have a wonderful woman named Ann Spillane who works in our financing department who deals with a lot of the grants. But that is not all she does all the time. And then officers also, we encourage them to keep their eyes open for different grant possibilities and encourage them to get involved in the grant writing process so they can learn about it. So as they progress in their careers, they can learn about that avenue and how to deal with grants, because it's not just about writing the grant. Sometimes writing the grant is the easiest part. The harder part is a lot of these different grants have requirements that you have to fulfill quarterly or yearly, depending on the grant itself, and you have to maintain data. You have to keep it for a certain number of years. You have to format it properly and stuff like that. So it really is a big deal beyond just writing the grant. And a lot of, like you said, you were asking, do we have a full-time grant writer? Because a lot of these grants do require a lot of full-time work.
Right. My goodness. Well, you astound me every time we talk, Chief.
Well, I appreciate it. It's very nice talking to you guys.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you next week.
All right, have a great day.
Thanks, Chief.
All right, bye.
With this week's potential for rain and thunderstorms, make sure you are going around your property to empty any standing water that may have accumulated, and make sure there are no containers left outside to collect water. Mosquitoes that have the potential to carry West Nile virus likely lay eggs and develop in man-made containers. Gabrielle Sokolsky, Assistant Superintendent and Entomologist, joined us in studio with more information on the detection of West Nile virus in Barnstable and tips to keep you and your family safe. Mosquitoes, yuck. Here's some in a jar, ready to go get tested. With me today, Gabby Sokolsky, Mosquito Control Project. My goodness, West Nile virus, mosquitoes everywhere, water everywhere. What are we going to do? But first, let's talk about the Mosquito Control Project and what you do here on the Cape.
Sure. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for the Cape Cod Mosquito Control Project. We're a quasi-state organization. We are actually set up through legislation under the state. We have a local board of commissioners who are residents in this area or who represent the residents of this area. And what we're mandated to do is go out and control mosquito populations. Keep them below a nuisance level, keep them below a level where they're going to be transmitting disease. We were formed back in 1930 through legislation, first organized mosquito control in the Commonwealth of Mass. And we're paid for by the 15 towns in Barnstable County.
Okay.
So what we do is, we do mosquito control a little differently here than they do off Cape. I think a lot of people who live in towns off Cape are used to at night trucks going around spraying, right? Late at night or early in the morning, depending on where you live. Trucks would go through your neighborhood and spray something into your neighborhood. We don't do any of that on the Cape. We focus on mosquitoes. That's focusing on adult mosquitoes. We focus on mosquitoes when they're in their developmental stages. Like those mosquitoes in that jar. If you can stop them before they're flying, that would be the key. So that's what we focus on. We have 10 crews who work super hard all summer long. No summer vacation for them. They're going around to different areas of Cape Cod, checking standing water that's been mapped over time, and taking samples to look for mosquito larvae. When they find the mosquito larvae, they're treating that water with a bacteria.
Okay.
They'll have backpack sprayers on. I think people look at those backpack sprayers and think, oh my gosh, what's in the back of them? It's a bacteria. It's a very targeted approach to mosquito control.
Okay, so 5 towns tested positive for the West Nile virus through the last testing. Our town was notified. Barnstable was one of those 5 towns.
Yep.
So let's talk a little bit about, so residents, aren't freaking out, but what is West Nile virus to the point where the mosquitoes are tested for it? What does that mean to us?
So all through this mosquito season, we have traps throughout the Cape where we're collecting samples of mosquitoes, species that are potentially carrying diseases. Okay. I collect those on a weekly basis. I identify them to species, put them on ice, ship them overnight to the state labs where they do the testing and then notify us. It's about a 48-hour turnaround. I ship on Tuesday. By Thursday afternoon, we have results. They like to test them a few times to make sure that their results are accurate before they release the information. West Nile virus, 14 samples on the Cape, 5 towns in 1 week is unprecedented.
Okay. So lots of rain, or
It is. It's not lots of rain. It's that we get little bits of rain. So if we kept getting rain constantly, lots of rain, everything would keep flushing out. Like that pickle jar full of mosquito larvae. Mosquitoes develop in standing water.
Right.
So if you can imagine you have a bucket in your backyard or a tarp, that's a classic. Tarp over something in your backyard. If it keeps raining, that water keeps getting flushed out. What has happened this summer is that it rains and then it doesn't rain for a number of days. And mosquitoes can go from the egg stage to flying adults in about a week this time of year. So if that water sits for a week, you've got flying adults.
Okay. And West Nile, again, is just one of the diseases that mosquitoes carry.
It is. In Massachusetts, we're looking for testing for Eastern equine encephalitis and West Nile virus.
Okay.
But West Nile virus is at a high level now in Massachusetts, and that's what our mosquitoes tested positive for.
Okay, so let's talk about preventing this, because it really starts with each and every one of us as residents to look at our backyards and the standing water that's in them. You said a tarp. I would have never thought of that. We have a tarp over something in our backyard, and that probably is getting...
It's a classic, because they'll have that one area that sort of dips down, and you don't really see it right away. A bucket, you would see something like that. The species of mosquitoes that are potential transmitters of West Nile virus all lay their eggs in man-made containers. So for however they do it, they don't lay their eggs in swamps. They don't lay their eggs in abandoned old cranberry bogs, nothing like that. What they're looking for is the jar in your backyard. They lay their eggs in your gutter. They lay your eggs in that tarp and overturned trash can lids. You wouldn't believe what my crews have seen out there.
Right.
And it should be simple to control those mosquitoes in your yard. Those mosquitoes don't fly very far. Those are the mosquitoes that you see at dusk and nighttime.
Okay.
So if you're seeing mosquitoes at dusk and nighttime, that's a clue. You've got something in your yard, or maybe your neighbors have something in their yard. People always call because they're sure it's their neighbors who have something in their yard. Yes.
Okay.
So the best thing you can do is go around your yard and empty out those containers at least once a week. Make sure that you're doing that. Every time it rains is best. And then the gutters are the one that you don't see. Maybe there's a dip in your gutter. Maybe your gutters are clogged. Make sure the water's coming out of your gutters too.
Okay. And that would be a systematic way of just going through your yard after each rainstorm and saying, okay, I'm going to check these all the way from, you know, my deck right down to the patio and down by the mailbox.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what you can do. What our crews are doing is checking those road drains. The road drains, if you could see them underground, or if you could see them, sometimes you see them at the DPW sitting up on the ground, they're meant to hold a couple feet of water in them. The water runs off the road into the drains, and then it sits, because they want all of the stuff that's running off the road not to run directly into the water, the groundwater, but they want it to sit. They're all little mosquito farms up and down the road. So my crews are going out treating those. Okay. We treat about 15,000 catch basins in a summer. Wow. And that's the one we get the most calls about, because I think it makes, people will question you, and it's good. People should question somebody putting something into a road drain, whether it's a packet or somebody spraying with a backpack into a road drain. What is that? What are you doing? If it's my crew, it's bacteria to kill the mosquitoes that are developing in there.
Okay. And we talk about, you know, some people want to leave their water for their birds or things like that. Is there things that you can treat your water with that would kill that for, you know, regular homeowners?
First of all, if you just clean out your bird bath once a week, you should have no problem.
Great.
I know my bird bath, it's a mess if I don't clean it out once a week. There are things that you can put in, say you have a water garden, because some people do, where they have standing water all of the time with no circulation. They actually sell the bacteria that we use. It's Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis, BTI. And if you look at the packaging for the mosquito dunks and things like that, it actually has that as an active ingredient. I know that there's a product called mosquito dunks that look like little donuts.
Okay.
That's exactly the stuff that we use. You can put it in there and it'll slow release that bacteria and kill your mosquitoes.
Okay, and that's for, standing ponds that you would have as a water garden or something like that.
Or you could put fish in it. They eat mosquitoes.
There you go, right?
You can make it a fish pond instead.
You can make it a fish pond instead. What else do you want residents to know about, one, the diagnosis of West Nile virus being tested here on the Cape, and two, how to protect themselves?
I think, again, that 14 samples coming back positive, 5 towns, I think 6 of those samples were in the town of Barnstable, is unprecedented. That is a lot of West Nile virus in the mosquitoes. I think people should take precautions. It's never good to be bitten by a mosquito, right? Going around your yard helps you and your neighbors to not have mosquitoes. If you want to be outside and there are mosquitoes biting you, you can use a repellent. Look at the label. Make sure it has an EPA registration number on the label, because that means it's been tested effective and safe to use on your skin.
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of talk about preventing tick bites here, and I know a lot of people are already educated on that. The same products that prevent ticks from biting you also repel mosquitoes. So any of those things.
Would Promethean be one of those?
Yes, yes.
So you could treat your clothing
Right.
before they
Definitely.
bite you.
Definitely. Before that, you don't want, mosquito bites are never good. That's what I'm saying.
Excellent.
So, yeah, and I would say that people shouldn't be overly concerned. They should just be vigilant. I think people should be vigilant in summertime with mosquitoes, no matter what's going on.
Right.
West Nile virus should be assumed to be here, whether I'm saying it or whether the tests are showing it or not. This may be looking at levels. If people are interested in finding out exactly what's going on in their town, the State Department of Public Health has a website, mosquitoresults.com. It's easy to remember.
It is.
And you can go to that website and click on your town and see what's testing positive. It'll also show you, the risk of transmission of the disease in your town. West Nile virus, when you look at the statistics, about 80% of the people who are exposed to the disease don't show symptoms. Another 20% show some sort of symptoms, ranging from mild to severe. And it doesn't, in a way, that doesn't sound like a lot. But the people who are most likely to have severe symptoms from this are people who are, 50, 60, older. And I think here on Cape Cod, that's a lot of our population. And so that definitely concerns me. They talk about it being a small percentage, but I think here we're a little more vulnerable to something like that.
Right. So let's get rid of the standing water.
Definitely.
Right?
That's the
be
best thing you can do.
vigilant and put protection on before you go out at dawn or dusk. Those runners out there. So
Exactly.
That's tough, but really, standing water, folks, get rid of it in your yard.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Here's an important event on our community calendar. Disaster preparedness is important to minimizing the impact of a disaster event and for families and communities to recover from as quickly as possible. Preparation requires knowledge, and what better time than the present to learn some valuable tips and strategies for preparing for an unforeseen disaster. Head on over to the Barnstable Senior Center August 16th at 10 a.m. to learn from one of our very own regional disaster preparedness and planning experts. Mr. Joseph Gordon is the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office Emergency Management Director, member of the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee, and Barnstable County All Hazards Incident Management Team. This event is free, but please RSVP. Here's a look at the meeting schedule for this week's boards, commissions, and committees. Comments, suggestions, accolades? Connect with us on Facebook, email us, or send us an old-fashioned note by carrier pigeon. Channel 18 works for you. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.